In the beginning, I didn't necessarily like Dominican food. It's a lot of rice and beans, which I had heard that they ate rice and beans before. And I don't know, since American culture is so involved with, I feel like, Mexican culture, I was like, oh yeah, like Mexican food, like refried beans and rice, like that's fine. It's not like that at all. It's like just white rice and like, I don't know what kind of beans they are, but like kidney beans. But all kinds of beans really. They make something called moro, which either you can use beans or something called wandule, which is like peas. So they eat a lot of rice, which I wasn't used to. You get like a rice belly like the first couple months. And they eat something called sancocho, which is like a soup, but like potatoes and yuca and plantains and meats and this big mystery soup. But that's actually kind of good. And my favorite probably actually is the bandera, which means flag, which is just rice, beans, and meat. And they have a little salad, which, I don't know, they make all kinds of different food, but it's like cheap food there. Like you can buy anything in a colmado, which is like a little convenience store. They have them on every corner. And so all the food that they make you can get there, like spaghetti, rice, beans, and plátanos, which is plantains. So, but I liked it. There's something that they make every Easter and every Christmas, which is called habichuelas con dulce, which is this like sweet beans. I don't know how I really explain it. It's kind of like a sweet soup pudding thing. I don't know, it's good. And so it's kind of like a tradition that they have. And they have something else called chaca, which is like corn and lots of sugar and condensed milk. None of it's good for you, but so they have like some interesting things which I liked. So, and living with a Dominican companion, I got to try a lot of different things, and she loved to cook, so I was like, have at it. So they eat a lot of salami too, and fried eggs. And a lot of things fried, actually, now that I think about it. Like empanadas and something called bollitos, which are like... I didn't know what yuca was before the mission. I don't know if that's a common thing. But it's kind of like similar to potato. They have to take out the hard shell, cook it, and for bollitos, they like grind it up and put egg in it, put cheese in the middle, and then fry it. It looks kind of like a mini corn dog thing. So I don't know. Tried a lot of Dominican food, so it helped make bollitos and help grade cocoa for people to sell, like coconut candy. And so yeah, it was liver, but it wasn't necessarily clean, and liver is a little sketch. And so she like gave it to us, and I'm like, I don't want to eat this, and my companion's like, what is it? I'm like, don't eat it. And so like I ate some of it, but you just like pray that it doesn't get you sick. And so it wasn't necessarily like something like super crazy like tongue or intestines. I luckily didn't try intestines. They do have something like a soup that they eat intestines, but that was the most scary because I was afraid I was going to get sick.
Dominicans, it was very surprising. For breakfast, they'd often have soup, or they would have leftover rice from the day before. And occasionally they would have cereal, and they called it cornflake or cornflakes, just off of the brand name. And their main meal of the day, though, is where they kind of stole the show. They called it la bandera, or their main dish, their big meal. And it was rice, beans, and chicken. And like in most South American, Central American cultures, rice and beans are the staple. And then if you're lucky, you get meat with it. And the Dominicans love their chicken. And even to the point that they would, question whether they really lived the word of wisdom. They loved chicken so much because they ate so much of it. And anyway, the best food that I had there, well, there are kind of two. I have a sweet tooth. I love the rice and the beans and the chicken, for sure. But they would have, during Easter time, sweet beans. They'd it's kind of, I don't know how exactly to explain it other than it's just, it's not like baked beans or barbecue beans. It's like rice pudding, but with instead of the rice, beans. And it was great. A little, almost like a sweet kind of soup. And they always had that at Easter. And then they made these things called, I think, arepitas, and they were made out of cornmeal, and they'd fry them, and it was kind of like a scone, but made out of corn with sugar in it. It was really good.
A few common foods there, as with a lot of the Caribbean and Latin America, rice and beans is very, very prevalent. In fact, that's the majority of what you eat is just rice and beans. And when I first got to the Dominican Republic, I'll be honest, I thought in my head, wow, how am I ever going to get used to eating so many rice and beans? Because literally for lunch, just about every single day, you have rice and beans or pasta. Those are kind of the two main things that they go to. And they even call it the bandera, like the flag of the Dominican Republic is rice, beans, and chicken. But honestly, I learned to love it. After the first month or two of my mission, I honestly started to love rice and beans. And they have a few really good dishes with rice and beans that towards the end of my mission became some of my favorites. And when I got home, I was even like, wow, where are the rice and beans? You'll really love the food there, and you'll get used to the rice and beans. It may be hard at first, but you'll get used to it. But they also have a few other foods that they're well known for. In the Dominican Republic, there's a lot of plátanos. And so you eat a lot of dishes that have plátanos in it. One of the famous ones that Dominicans are known for is called mangu. And it's basically mashed potatoes, but with plátanos. And it's actually quite good. I would make it a lot with my companion, and we'd always really enjoy it. On the mission, I didn't eat too many crazy foods. Like I mentioned, you mostly just eat rice and beans. There was one time, however, one of my favorite converts, she invited us over for dinner, me and my companion. We showed up, and she said, "Elders, look what I made for you. I made pig's feet." And we looked at our dish, and sure enough, it wasn't like boiled down or cut up or anything. There were just 2 pig's hoofs just right on our plate that she had made with a sauce. And honestly, that was one of the craziest things I ate, and it was super hard eating it. But we loved our convert, this old lady, and we loved her family, and she was so nice to invite us over to dinner that me and my companion did our best to eat it and tell her that we loved it. But it was pretty hard. But honestly, that's a rare exception. You don't eat very many crazy foods or anything that's too disgusting.
The craziest food that I've eaten over there, that I ate, had to have been called tripa, and also, so like the kidney of a cow or a pig, and a little just fried blood kind of a thing, like a sausage, but that's like fried blood, and they'd have that with like this sauce. Craziest thing I've eaten. And the kidney of, I think it was a pig, I'm not sure what it was. That was probably the craziest thing I've eaten. And cow tail. And they just sell like pig skin, like fried pig skin called chicharrón. We usually stayed away from that stuff because it would always get us sick. I remember that's what got me sick on my mission, was eating from the streets and the frituras, they're called. Just little vendors on the side of the street with their little cart of what they're selling and stuff. So the food is like the best. Dominicans known for their food, their music, and their dances. Their food, it's just rice, beans. It's the typical rice, beans, and a choice of meat, whatever meat they want. Chicken. There's always chicken, and they like saute the chicken or the meat, and they have these plantains, and they would fry those in a pan with oil, and they make them like French fries kind of a thing, but they're just like fried bananas. I don't know how to explain it, other than in Spanish, but those were like super good. My favorite were they're called plátanos, plantains, fried plantains. Those were super good, and they loved. I guess I'll say I loved one of their famous dishes called sancocho. It's kind of like a stew in a way. They just throw in yuca, which is yucca, potatoes, carrots. They throw in chicken, meat from like goat meat to cow meat, or it's just a mixture of everything. It's just a mix of a lot of things. It's super good. You put on your rice, and it's a super good meal. And they're also famous for their habichuelas con dulce. They're just sweet beans. I don't know. It's kind of like rice pudding, but like in a bean, I don't know, way kind of thing.
So if you go out to eat in the Dominican Republic, like some fast food, you'll usually go to a pico pollo, which are these kind of like Kentucky Fried Chicken places. They're almost always run by Chinese people, and yeah, you just get fried chicken and plátanos fritos, which are just fried plantains, and those are really good. I'd never had a plantain before, so yeah, there's fried. It's kind of like the equivalent of our French fries, although they have those too, but most people eat fried plantains.
Food, though. I've got to talk about Dominican food. It's amazing. I used to be a fairly picky eater. I kind of got over that before I left on the mission, but still had bits of it. But I was afraid that I would probably try something that I wouldn't like. And there was only one thing in the entire 2 years in the Dominican Republic that I tried and did not like. Well, and even that I liked halfway. So the Dominican staple is rice and beans, chicken, rice, and beans. Sometimes it's white rice, sometimes it's rice with the beans cooked into it, sometimes it's rice with the chicken cooked into it. And they do offer beef and pork sometimes to go with, but usually it's chicken. The rice, they make it dry, so they don't leave it sticky. They make sure it's all the individual grains. The chicken is cooked, and the beans are cooked in about the same way. They're cooked in a pan on the stove, but in like a sauce. So they call it a guiso. So it's almost like a gravy, but not quite as thick, and really, really, really seasoned, really powerful. So they don't give you very much of the chicken or the sauce, but it flavors the rice enough that you get about the perfect balance. They also, one of my favorite things to have out there were fritos, which are fried, chopped up green plantains. It's like an answer to French fries, kind of, but out there way cheaper. It's super good. You can have them with ketchup. You can have them with a full meal. You can have them just on their own with a little bit of salt, however you want. Also the drinks. I miss the drinks of the Dominican Republic. You get all kinds of fruit drinks. You get fresh lime juice, mango juice, pineapple juice, papaya juice, well, papaya smoothies usually. And you can get smoothie versions of all of these as well that have sweetened condensed milk in there, that have evaporated milk in there and sugar. And you can mix and match bananas, fresh bananas, super sweet bananas, star fruit. They had this one fruit called limoncillo that you couldn't get in a juice, but it was like these little grapes that were covered by a hard skin. So you'd crack the skin and suck out the grape on the inside, and then you'd pull all the flesh off of it because it was a big seed in the middle. You'd rip all the flesh off of it with your teeth and then spit it out. and those things tasted like pink lemonade. It was incredible. Let's see, other fruits that I liked. Tamarind. They have a lot of tamarind juice out there, and just eating tamarind straight is really good. Passion fruit. Chinola, passion fruit. I had so much passion fruit juice while I was on the mission because it was super cheap. It was like 25 pesos for an 8 to 10 ounce cup of fruit juice, and that was all you needed to accompany your lunch. Or you could make it yourself too. You could buy the fruit super cheap. Every mission house had a blender, and so you just throw it all in the blender and add some things in there. It was super good. The one food that I tried that I didn't like was called mondongo. It's cow intestines and cow stomach chopped up and guisados, so the same way they make the chicken. The guiso was really good. I liked it. I put it all over the rice. But I got it unknowingly thinking that it was like pork or something. And so when I actually tried the meat, it had on one side it had like the texture of a cat's tongue, like super rough and dry. And then it was super rubbery, as if you were chewing on a giant ball of steak fat. And I couldn't take it. I spit it out. And it had a good flavor for sure. I just couldn't do the texture. Other great foods there are dumplings, which are just little balls of flour dough that they boil as if it were making homemade pasta, and then they'll put different sauces over it. Sometimes it's a red, particularly sour or salty tomato sauce. Sometimes, my favorite way, they made out in San Pedro de Macorís, they call it dumplings ahogado en queso, or these dumplings drowned in cheese, where they'd make it with a tomato and cheese sauce. It was amazing. They also made mangu, which is super good. It's mashed potatoes made out of plantains. One of the things I did like about the Dominican Republic, which is probably not the healthiest, and I didn't indulge in it a lot because our mission president and his wife decided to set down some rules about when and where we could eat street food. We had to be careful with it. I really loved empanadas, which in the Dominican Republic means really thin flour dough stuffed with beef or chicken and cheese and sometimes veggies, whatever you wanted in there. And then they close it up and deep fry it. And then stick some ketchup on top, maybe some mayonnaise, salt and pepper, things like that. Well, not pepper. Dominicans don't eat spice almost at all, not even black pepper. One time I made hamburgers for an activity, and I made them with some black pepper, and I didn't make them very spicy at all, and people almost couldn't eat them. It was funny to watch. Dominican food is very smooth, very soft flavors, like powerful flavors, but very mild. No spice to them. A lot of the snacks I tried to kind of avoid in the colmados and stuff like that, little cookies and cakes and things like that. One of the things that I definitely did buy every time I saw, though, was dulce de maní, which is it's like sort of like a peanut brittle almost that they make, and then dulce de coco, which is it's like dulce de leche, but they make it with coconut. So shredded coconut that's basically caramelized with some extra sugar on there, and it's the best thing ever. I'm not a big fan of coconut, but I love dulce de coco. Also, I can't mention the Dominican Republic without mentioning habichuelas con dulce, sweet bean soup. Now you're all going to think, what the heck? Sweet bean soup? But I kid you not, it is probably the best dessert I had in the Dominican Republic. It's boiled red beans. You soften them in with some cinnamon and nutmeg, and then you blend them up so that it's all smooth and thick, almost like a gravy. And then you mix in a whole bunch of coconut milk, and you put in some sweet cloves. You put in, they call it batata. It's kind of like sweet potato, but not as sweet. A little bit more solid as well. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But basically, just small spices. The base of it is coconut milk and beans and batata. And then if it's hot, you drink it. You put these little cookie things on the top, little vanilla cookie things that soak it up and get soft. Or if you have it cold, then you can eat it almost like a cereal, because it's not that it's individual part. It's more like a pudding, I guess you'd call it. It's thick. I prefer it cold, but I will eat it hot just as well. It's super good. They make it around Easter. So every time that Easter would get close, all of us in the mission field would get super excited, because the week of Easter, they follow the Catholic tradition of celebrating the Holy Week. And so from a couple weeks before Holy Week until the week after, everyone's making habichuela con dulce, and they all want you to try it. I remember one, I think it was on Jueves or Viernes Santo, so the Thursday or Friday of Holy Week. Viernes Santo is probably the biggest day of Holy Week other than Easter itself. We were going from house to house teaching some people, and in 3 or 4 houses in a row, we got offered habichuela con dulce, and I was in heaven. It was great.